You're watching CN2 News. Two Chester County principals wanted to make a difference during the pandemic. They started Create and Educate LLC to help educators and parents during some tough times. They're focusing on literacy and leadership. CN2's REALL Jackson has more on how they're helping the community.
Create and Educate, we are a consulting firm that works with educators as well as entrepreneurs. So with the side where we're working with educators, we offer professional development on literacy as well as implicit bias. We work with leaders and leadership teams to help improve schools.
They've been surviving pandemic education by offering tips for school leaders, teachers, and parents.
We really want to see kids through the trajectory, graduating from high school, ready to go to college or to start a career or to go into the military.
Create and Educate has multiple community partners in the area that read books to children weekly, discuss literature, and express their support for the education system. Recently, the owners were featured for Amazon's #1 best-selling book entitled Women Who Lead in Education.
And so we are super, super excited because we're amongst a family of women leaders who are absolutely extraordinary. So it's an honor to have been asked to participate. And then even more of an honor now that the book has gone on sale and it became a #1 bestseller. So you don't have to be a school leader to have leadership qualities.
Collectively, both Tammy Taylor, principal of Great Falls Elementary, and Dr. Sheka Houston, principal of Chester Middle School, have 40 years of service in education. They have learned the need in their community, and they plan to
serve all children in all communities. And one of the things that we enlighten people about in our professional development with literacy is that sometimes it's hard for children to connect to text because they don't see themselves in text. Providing that culturally relevant literature for students, and that's not just African American students, that's all students. Every student at every school should be able to see themselves in a book, in a text, to be able to connect with it.
Surviving pandemic education together in Chester, REALL Jackson, CN2 News.
Great Saturday, everyone. I hope that everyone is having an awesome weekend, and we are pre-recording. I'm Dr. Sheka Houston and Dr. Tammy Taylor. Welcome to the REALL Academy. Hopefully, Principal heard, and we're hoping we get to go back and watch, but we are so excited that he is broadcasting from, I think it's Johannesburg, Africa, he posted. So we are excited.
Very so excited.
Yes, about his travels and everything that he has been able to do. I think his family is actually spending some time there, but I know that that is very exciting. Definitely on my bucket list to visit the motherland at some point. So congratulations to Principal Hurd. We know he is going to be on fire when he comes on. Anywhere that he is, he always keeps us going and pumped up.
And we can't wait to hear all about the trip, Principal Hurd.
I told him I was gonna make sure I was friends with Erica because he doesn't post a whole lot of pictures. So we definitely want to see the pictures. But for those of you that are joining us for the first time, welcome to the REALL Academy. This academy is based on our resilience framework. Respect, excellence, accountability, literacy, and leadership are a part of that resilience framework. And we use that framework to improve our schools 2 and 3 report card grade levels in 1 year. So it's definitely a framework that can help improve schools. It can help improve your leadership capabilities. We work with coaching leaders and principals and women. So if this is something that you need at your school, we are definitely looking to help others. We started this because we didn't receive the help that we needed at the time. So documenting that process of what we did to improve was something that has been able to help us help others.
Absolutely.
So this week we are finishing up our Cultivating Leadership series. We started off with respect. We talked about excellence and what that looks like. Today we're going to finish out with accountability, literacy, and leadership, and what cultivating those things look like. So accountability is something that is very important. You have to model that you're accountable for things, I think, as a leader, number one. And you also have to, as a leader, inspect the things that you are inspecting. So you have to have those correct systems in place. We actually talked about this yesterday at a school site visit, where one of the goals was to make sure that student writing was happening across the curriculum, the one pagers or the quick writes or different things. So a Google form was created for different meetings. And as people were coming to those meetings, before the meeting, they would have to load in evidence of the writing that was expected to be happening, good examples or exemplars of that writing. So just making sure that you are putting those systems in place to be able to inspect those things and also model it yourself, I think, are essential things when we're talking about accountability.
Yeah, and I think that a major part of that system that has to be put into place is the system needs to include everybody, because the accountability piece doesn't work if everyone is not accountable. So as Sheka mentioned, the accountability, of course, starts with us as leaders, but that accountability also has to be trickled down to the staff and even to the students, because everyone has to do their part in order for there to be the kind of synergy that gives you the success that you're looking for.
Exactly. And I'm glad you brought up the students, Tammy, because student accountability is definitely something that we have to cultivate. They have to see us be accountable for certain things. And that means, if you are the leader and you're expecting people to be at school at a certain time, then there's an accountability for you to be at school at a certain time. Same thing for your students. If you're marking students tardy, but they're seeing you show up late every other day, that's not sending the right message, and not to say that things don't happen, because they do. People respect the human side of things. So if something happens, you let them know, hey, this happened this morning, sorry, and then we move on. But that shouldn't be something that's happening every other day. But when students are being held accountable, it helps them to take that ownership and have that self-efficacy that is needed. So even with that writing that we were talking about, there are self-assessments that students can use to make sure that they have the different components of the writing, or if their goal, one of their personal goals, is to improve in writing, then maybe they were setting a goal to have a certain number of things written by certain times. And there's even, the National Writing Project that we went to, they talked about where you can even get students published. So that is very empowering, something that would really motivate students as far as writing is concerned, to have their work to be published.
True.
So that accountability is definitely something that is necessary. The next portion is literacy. And Tammy, you were going to start off talking about that.
We talk about literacy a lot because it's foundational for the work that we do, because we know that in order for students to be successful, they have to have a strong and solid foundation in literary skills. And what we just wanted to emphasize, though, this morning is literacy goes beyond just reading and writing. Literacy is a part of every instructional component that exists in a school. Literacy in math shows up as numeracy, because we want kids to be functional in mathematics as well. But you have to make sure that literacy is embedded across the content areas as well. And Sheka talked about that, writing across the curriculum. The same thing is true for reading across the curriculum, and making sure that those studies that are integrated are truly being integrated in a way that literacy stands out and isn't just this other thing that, oh, we're trying to get done or we're trying to squeeze this in, but it really is a natural flow into the way that things happen in that classroom.
Definitely. And I think as a leader, or when you're cultivating leadership, you definitely have to have that focus and emphasis on being an instructional leader. So you have to understand what that looks like, what it looks like when it's being done well, who in your building is doing those things well. And then for those who are not, what do they need in order to improve? How can you coach them up? How can you get them the professional development, or you have to hone in on those specific things that they possibly could need in those different areas. So, a lot of times people will say things like, well, I taught this certain subject as leaders. We come from various backgrounds. My background was business, actually, going into education because I was a career changer. But that doesn't mean that I couldn't grow or become a great instructional leader, because I did. And one of the main things that I did was sat in with the teachers during their meetings when they're discussing instruction. That is the best way to learn things when you're trying to figure that part out about instructional leadership, is from your experts, your teachers. And when you're sitting in talking with them about it, you're hearing their conversations and you're being a part of those conversations. You're also providing them with resources that they may not have known about, that you become a part of that process, versus just somebody on the outside coming in to always evaluate. You look like you are actually a part of the process. And I think that's important as well.
And just for clarification, like whatever expertise you bring as an administrator to the school, I have a very strong early childhood background. So when I come to a school, I can come with what I know about what's developmentally appropriate for children who are very young. But that doesn't mean, as Sheka said, that I can't learn and grow from the folks who are in the trenches and getting that work done. However, I can be a support to them to, if nothing else, be a thought partner, or to be that person who challenges them to think about things from a different perspective, so that we are making sure that we are getting kids exactly what they need.
Definitely. And the last thing that I'll add, as an avid staff developer, having the training in the Wicker strategies has been really something that has been effective in me helping teachers grow professional and instructionally, because they focus on that writing, inquiry, collaboration, organization, and reading skills. So those are things that are implemented across the curriculum, and it goes from the teachers down to the students. So that student, the self-efficacy is developed in them as well. And the last part of our acronym, and we're talking about cultivating leadership, is leadership. I think when you're trying to cultivate leadership in other people, in your staff members, you have to first know who is interested in leadership. And not only who's interested, but sometimes you have to tap people to let them know, hey, I think you would be great at this particular, role, and you assign them things that are in leadership capacities in order to cultivate that. So number one, listening to those who express to you their interest in going into leadership, but then also knowing and observing your people to know, hey, you would actually be a good leader. I don't know if you've ever thought about that before, because some people do need that tap on the shoulder in order to take them to the next level.
And I think that is well said, because I did a study with the University of South Carolina. I was on a team who did a study with rural educators, and it was all about recruitment and retention. And what we need to think about is just what Sheka just said. As we tap people in to leadership, are those people more likely to stay because you have given them some alternative to demonstrate who they are and what their specialties are? I do think that there is leadership in all of us. And unfortunately, sometimes it isn't the same from person to person. And some people don't have a desire to lead at the school level, and that's fine. Teacher leadership in their classrooms, I think, is absolutely needed in every school. So just being cognizant of the path that your folks want to take, or what you see in them as what you can see towards a bright future. That's how I got where I am. I never thought about being an administrator because I so love teaching. But I had a principal who, and a superintendent actually at that time, who saw things in me that at that point I couldn't even see in myself. So even if you go to somebody and you're doing that tap, and they're like, I think you tapped the wrong person. Just be there to cultivate, like Sheka said, and demonstrate and model and pull them in to being a leader in their own right, so that they can see how well they are prepared for whatever that next step might be for them.
And I agree with you totally, Tammy. Everyone is a leader in a school, because teachers are leaders of their classrooms. So we have to cultivate that leadership of being the leader of your classroom. But there's also leaders in the children. They can lead different things. We have, at the elementary level, they love that line leader. But we also have student ambassadors who greet people as they come in. We have people that are over multiple different tasks in a class. And a lot of times I used to tell my teachers, you all drive yourselves into a frenzy when you have all these able-bodied children that you can empower to do things in the classroom. They want to do things. They actually like it. So empower them at the student level, empower your teachers, and then those who want to go outside of the classroom into a different level of leadership, empower them as well, because that is needed. And just like Tammy, I was a person who was tapped. I had no interest in school administration. I thought that it was the most thing. It did not look attractive to me at all. Having to deal with so many adults and so many different things and tasks. But I had an assistant principal and a principal who saw in me leadership capabilities, and they put me over several different things. They sent me to different programs that were things that were going to cultivate my leadership beyond the classroom. So once I attended one of those sessions, it did pique my interest to want to pursue it, and I did. But again, that leadership does have to be cultivated. Even in children, you have to teach them, if you're giving them an assignment, if they're in charge of something, you have to teach them what those responsibilities are that goes along with those roles. And I think even allowing them to switch out roles so they can try different things is something that is helpful for students and exposing them as well.
Absolutely.
So thank you all for joining us today in the REALL Academy. This concludes this particular series on cultivating leadership. Next month, we will have a different focus, and we will also have our episode of the collaborative coming up the first Tuesday of each month. That's the first Tuesday at 7:30. Is it 7 or 7:30? Did we change it? 7, Tuesday at 7 for the collaborative. So thank you for joining us.
Not this Tuesday, right? But the following Tuesday.
Yeah, the first Tuesday of April.
Yeah.
And if you're like us, this is our last week until spring break. So we are counting down the days. We do need that break. And just thoughts and prayers and condolences to Tammy School, Great Falls Elementary School. They are experiencing something tragic that happened with a staff member who is no longer with us. So thoughts and prayers for the family, the school family. Those are always things that are difficult to navigate. So just continue to keep them in your thoughts and prayers during this time. But thank you all for joining us in the REAL Academy. Please join Principal Kafele next. He has a great guest coming up. Also, Josh and Dean in the middle. I'm losing my train of thought this morning. Unlock the middle on Sunday. And then Dr. Roz and Coach Williams on Tuesday. So make it a great Saturday, everyone. Thank you.